I was just going to give a quick update on where we are with the foundation, a few things that weren't covered and other things that we did. First thing that I didn't put a slide in here about it, but I should have. We have done quite a bit of work in bringing new staff on. And this became clear that our education program was drowning some people. In other words, we had so much going on, and Mark saying, you know, it's me. Christine was doing a lot of work to help him, but we needed more support. So we brought in a program manager. That was Jessica, who spoke to you all today. So she's a educator by training. So and then we brought in somebody else to work with an administrative assistant with her, Mindy Burgos. And then we have a grant writer that we brought in. And we're really trying to pursue other monies besides just donations. So we are making a concerted effort to go after federal grants, state level grants, private foundation grants, you name your grant. We're working hard to do that. And Ebony is really working hard to make that happen as well. And we also have somebody now who's doing, Chanel is doing social media for us. So updates to the board. In the last board meeting, we brought on Kevin Phillips, who is the, I should say that was in December actually, who is the chairman of the board and CEO and president of Mantech International Corporation. Great addition to our board. We also went through a process where we were we interviewed all the board members, and some of them said, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and they stepped away. And that's Rod Isler, Mark Lowenthal, Glenn Maranker, and Don Winter. So we're in the process now of adding additional board members. I think we'll be bringing 2 more on in the June board meeting. So really excited about doing that. And the other thing that we're working with along with that is, you know, we're looking at what is our value proposition of the foundation. So we're going through a strategic planning process to take a look at our mission and vision and see what kind of updates we want to make for that moving into the future. So that process is just beginning. There's a series of interviews taking place with people internal to the organization, external to the organization, including board members and others that are completely outside. And we're trying to get their perspective to help us figure out what is that unique thing that we, the foundation, can do. Trying not to do other people's jobs, you know, making sure that we're not in the space of other organizations. So you can advance. We have had some new 3-star, we had a 3-star founder that happened in November since our last meeting. So that was the Verstanding Family Foundation, a $3 million gift to our education programs. And then we just got a 1-star founder, Amit and Veronica Singh, just happened in the last month. And that was as a result of, Guy Filippelli, one of our board members, held a small dinner, invited a lot of his friends, and we got that night at the dinner. I mean, they basically said, we're going to donate $100,000. It was awesome. So anyway, just like that. And we're still working. Rebecca's quickly working others as well. So, all right, Christine. All right. So I know a lot of people want to know what's going on with the CCEI. Yes. So I'm calling it still what we call a strategic pause. We've had a lot of back and forth going on. We were ready to go and put the shovel in the ground, and DOD put the brakes on us, right? The DOD said, no, not going to do that. We know that you had this kind of agreement with NSA about what you could do, but change the rules of engagement. So that was hard news to take. So anyway, here's the rules. No phase of construction until we have all funds raised through private donations, that includes state money, with 100% of the cash available. So that means that we have to have the entire cost of construction in the bank before we can put any shovel in the ground. That is complicated by the next bullet, which is, and this is all comes under what you call MILCON rules of construction. Now you might say, but you aren't using MILCON money. I know we're not using MILCON money, but these are the rules they put in place because it's on Department of Defense property. We have to abide by MILCON rules. That means any building or phase thereof must be a turnkey facility that is complete and usable before it can be accepted as a gift by NSA. Now, we had proposed a 3-phase, for three phases of construction. given the design of this facility as this big blast mitigated shell, 70,000 square feet, that means that you can't phase it in the way that would meet MILCON standards, because the only phase you can have is turning the entire thing over to them, right? Because it's hard to take a blast mitigated shell and make a small, complete and usable space. None of that would be acceptable. And they basically said the three-phase approach that you have worked out is not acceptable, and we won't take that. There's a fourth component of it that is I didn't put in there, but there had been money appropriated by the federal government, $15 million to this of O&M money. The last part of it is you can't apply any of those funds until it's gifted to the government. So basically, we can't use the federal funding. You have to build the whole thing. You have to have all the money up front to build the whole thing, which puts us in a really, really precarious position. And let's add the inflation of the cost over the last 2 years. So that's the pause. So we are working closely with NSA to continue find a viable path forward to construct the CCEI. It will get built. I have confidence it's going to get built. The question is who will be building it and under what time frame will that happen? But NSA is committed to the project. I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that NSA is not committed. They are committed to the project. But their hands are tied by DOD. And in the meantime, we are continuing to engage at the proper levels to get this done. We went to the Maryland delegation, the congressional delegation, supportive, very supportive, and they will help us in any way that we move forward to help get funding more quickly. NSA can't do that, but we can. So the things that NSA can't do, we can go in and ask on the side, right, for different ways to advance this project more quickly. But in the meantime, we are stuck because it's over $40 million additional that we would have to have in the bank right now to build this building. And you know, the way it works in when you're building such a thing with crowdfunding, you do most of your fundraising once it is starting to come out of the ground. So it's really hard to build something when you don't have anything coming out of the ground, and we're not allowed to do that. So it's frustrating, but I'm hopeful. Let's say that. And then, you know, we are working at the senior DOD level too, with the office with Ron Moultries.
Wasn't INL going to take care of some of the infrastructure stuff like power and sewers and all that stuff? Weren't they going to do that?
No, that was actually all part of the land work was all part of, that was under us as well. It still requires MILCON funding. Yeah, okay, Patty.
So I have a question about the 3 conditions that you listed.
Mhm.
I thought those were the 3 conditions for the NCF to build it. Are you saying that's also the 3 conditions on NSA becoming the primary constructor?
Yes. That is, those conditions that I have given you are all what it means to be under a MILCON project, which would apply if MILCON funding was used. So, I mean, but if they would, I mean, so let's say NSA says, we're going to build it, we're going to get the money, do all of that. It becomes less difficult because they would get the money appropriated for the entire building. And then they wouldn't have to worry about the, you know, they don't have to worry about cash in the bank, right? It would be appropriated funds that they would have. So it's the same conditions.
So it wouldn't be built out, it wouldn't be a phased budget approach. It was, you have to have all this right up front.
If NSA built it, it would be appropriated over years, right? If they're going to ask for the money, they would have X number appropriated in this amount this year. That money about it being in the bank really applies. That's an us thing. That's an us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If they have the money programmed, then that works. Yes, Sally.
I assume that the other museums that have been built for the Marines and maybe even the one for Special Forces are not faced with any of this problem.
So,
And the museums that were being built before the new rules slipped through.
so I think one of the things you have to look at with the Marine Corps Museum, first of all, I'm not completely convinced it's on federal property. It is just off of federal property. But also the way they phased it is in compliance with this. Some of the reasons these rules were put on us was because of the difficulty. We're we're a victim of the difficulties other organizations have had in building museums. So the DoD is saying, we're not going to do this again. I think they had problems with the Army Museum. Therefore, we're going to apply these stringent rules to you because we don't want to be in the same situation with others. So it's really, the big thing is who owns the property? And this one is 100% on DoD property, right? Can't debate that. It's on DoD property. And so that becomes, and some people say, well, just go build it someplace else. Yeah, then I have to buy the property, right? So, and anyway, I mean, as frustrating, it's been a frustrating couple of years but
More than a couple of years,
well,
way more.
I know it's been more, yes, it's been, well, my frustration is what I'm thinking of us from the time where we told we couldn't, when we thought we were going to put a shovel in the ground and told we couldn't. There's been a lot of frustration before that. But I'm actually pretty confident it's going to get built at this point. I really do feel a willingness from NSA to see it through. To the point, even, the deputy director, I saw him at an event a couple weeks ago and he said, we're going to get it done. Okay. So we still have some work to do with our board to figure out how we want to do this because our board has not made any decisions on what we want to do. I'm just kind of laying out the facts of what it will take if we were to do it. So that's up for a board discussion, hopefully in June. It's going to be on the docket. Anyway, yeah, I would like to, yeah.
What are the next steps?
Well, the next steps is a board decision would be for our board to determine, do we want to try to do that, right? Raise all those funds, or do we want to go back and work with the DoD and NSA to have them do it? So if that's the case, if let's say NSA were to build it, they have to go put in, I'm learning forms, DD something, it's a request for Milcon funding. And so they have to actually put in for the funding. The other part of it that I didn't address here, I didn't put it in the slide at all. We put a lot of money. We spent a lot of money, at least $13 million in design and materials. There is also a way for us to gift that to the agency or to the Department of Defense. And they're looking at what steps it has to be done through the comptroller. So we're working that as well.
And because the agency is putting a lot of funding, I guess, in the rehabilitation of the existing museum,
Yeah.
what's going to happen with all that? I mean,
So that's the funny part now, isn't it? So that started as they wanted to fix their IT because they saw that it was going to be several years before we could get this built. And their IT was bad. It was bad to the point where we couldn't hold an event there. It was just unreliable, right? We tried to do a GMM from there. It was a disaster, right? Just unreliable. So they did need to do some work there. But in doing that, they discovered the asbestos, which we kind of knew it was there, but so shock. And then, so now then it kind of escalated. Now we're going to fix the roof and do all this. So it is probably several $1 million now going into that. Once this goes, that will be torn down.
is it Milcon?
No, it's probably O&M because it's not new construction. I believe that is all done with O&M money. So it's different pots of money, right? You know how the government works, right? What you can do with one pot, you can't do with the other. And yeah. And the money that was appropriate to us was O&M, but you couldn't apply the O&M to a building that hadn't been built yet.
But all the funding that you got from people
We still,
for the museum, that's still preserved and
yeah, that's in the bank. It's in our
one
trust account.
interest.
Huh?
Lucky.
Well, it's invested, so it's probably not happy right now, but okay. There for a while, we had it in cash, but then we were looking, we went to long term. So yeah, it's invested. But yeah, and that's part of the board discussion too, of how we want to deal with that. So, yeah. So, I mean, the CCEI was always intended to be more than building. The more important part of the CCEI was not the building. It was what we're doing inside the building. And that, as you can see with what Jessica briefed today, we are doing, right? we are building education programs. I'm going to talk a little bit more about something else that we're working on as well. Want to get past this, some other engagement that we're doing. But yeah, the important part of our work are the programs and how we reach out to the students and how we reach out to our stakeholders and how we do, that's what really is the important part. And, what is the partnership with NSA? I didn't really talk too much about the MOA. Natalie mentioned it, but yeah, how we use that partnership with NSA to really build out this public-private partnership, and how can we be that platform, serve as that platform for NSA to really help in their public engagement and their building their trust and confidence. And how can we bring in the people from academia and industry and other places, along with officials from NSA or CISA or FBI, to really talk about the role of government, talk about privacy, talk about sticky issues, right, in the public domain. So, those are what's important for moving forward. The building would be really great to have, and it'd be a nice place to hold a meeting like this, right? It'd be a great place to hold a gala or things like that. So, yeah, but we are working through all of that with NSA. They've been good partners. So now than we were, I'll be honest. I mean, I think our relationship with NSA is probably in a better place than we have commitment at the senior levels to this. So.
And are we getting a lot of support from the Maryland political community and the?
Well, here we go. Unfortunately, as far for the CCEI or in general?
In general, but particularly.
Yeah. So let me just say, okay. So I was kind of going to this. It was kind of my next one. A little bit of my next slide. So, first of all, let me say on the CCEI and as far as at the national level, the Congressman Van Hollen and Ruppersberger, tremendously supportive. I've got a hotline to Ruppersberger's office now. Matter of fact, I owe Elliot a email. I just remembered that. I've been swamped in doing this, and I need to.
Is Ruppersberger your congressman, or is it Sarbanes?
Well,
Sarbanes.
now or no,
It's not a senator.
so I don't know how the lines have been redrawn. Ruppersberger, the museums, the NSA sits.
Lawyers district will include NSA.
Will it in the new? I don't know. Right now, we're in Ruppersberger's district.
It's going to be Hoyer.
Is it? I haven't looked at the map.
Yeah, can't do better than that.
Well, but Ruppersberger's been great too. I mean, he's been, and so I hadn't looked at the map since it's been, I don't even know where I live. I don't even know who mine is going to be, because I think I got redistricted too personally. So, and then Van Hollen has been very supportive as well. So as far as state level, so we had done we've had great support from the state and the General Assembly. Specifically, the people we've worked with is Senator Pam Beidel and Delegate Mark Chang. I think Mark Chang lives right by here. He can walk here. He told me from right in this area. But anyway, those two have really advocated for us in getting a lot of the bond funding over the years. Last year, we were in the governor's budget for the capital budget. So we've gotten to that point, been reimbursed for almost all of the funding that the state of Maryland has provided to us. Where we're really making inroads, I would say now, is where I get to this next piece, is we've developed a relationship with, in this case, Senator Katie Fry Hester, who leads the cybersecurity workforce development subcommittee. I'm looking at Greg because he can get me. It's a lot of words when you get them all jumbled together. So the workforce development subcommittee. Anyway, so Senator Hester, she's Howard County, Western Howard County into Carroll, right? And she's just like, fire engine going through and blazing trails for getting cybersecurity legislation. So we've gotten a really close relationship with her, and she relies on us now to help in the legislation, some of these legislative actions. So I'm showing here a couple of bills. We did testimony on 4 of the 8 bills introduced by the Joint Committee on Cybersecurity, IT, and Biotech. And first one was for cybersecurity scholarship programs. This was alterations to it. And this is to provide funding, some debt relief, and loan forgiveness for people in the cybersecurity field. We provided oral testimony during a Senate hearing. The next was the Modernized Maryland Act of 2022. These two were passed. I gotta find the Modernized Maryland Act so I can tell you exactly what it is because it's easier to do it that way.
I could do it.
Yeah, go ahead and do it, Greg. Say it.
Okay, so the Scholarship for Service Program, the university also testified in favor of that. The had two components: loan forgiveness for if you're go through a program and you work for a state or a school district or local government, your student loans are forgiven. That was stripped out of the bill. So the component that went forward in the bill opened the scholarship program to part-time students. So it's just like the NSF Scholarship for Service Program. So you get a scholarship, you complete your degree, and then you work for state government, local government, or school district for some number of years. So yeah, the foundation was a key committee witness for that bill. In the Modernized Maryland Act, so this is one of three bills that Senator Katie Fry-Astor had success with that was squarely concerned with cybersecurity. But this act had two components. This act was aimed at modernizing legacy systems of the state because the state had, like Maryland Public Health Department has a huge software program that's used by local units of government as well as the state for a variety of purposes, state purposes, the Maryland Health Department. They had a hack this year that created a lot of bad downstream consequences for hospitals and nurses trying to get licenses renewed or get new licenses for graduates that created a real problem during COVID. But so the bill had two components. One was bond authority for $1.5 billion worth of bonds for the state to issue to address these legacy systems. And the second part was like a planning group, public sector people, academics and so forth, to put kind of together, to do an assessment, put together a roadmap for those investments. Well, the bond authority was stripped out, but the commission, the planning commission was left intact. And the idea that is that in this next year, they'll be funded, they'll hire contractors, they'll do an assessment, construct a roadmap. Well, legacy systems will cost far more than $1.5 billion to replace. But the idea is that it'll be up to a future administration, and we hope it'll obviously be somebody else in the legislature to fund that out of, out of their annual budgets. So, so those are those two bills.
Yeah, so the other two that we did that were, unfortunately, we were so close on these last two. They ended up kind of being rolled into one when it was done, but when we did the testimony, they were separate. One was to have the cyber safety guide and training in all Maryland public schools. And really to try to get kids from an early age, similar to the, guide that you have, but to get training for kids so they understand how to be safe out in the digital world. And then the second one was like a workforce accelerator. It was originally set up as it would be run out of UMBC. And anyway, we thought they were going to get passed. And at the 11th hour, they'd combined them. They kind of put one and put the other one in there. So I thought, oh, we're going to get 2 for 1. And at the last minute, it fell apart. But there's hope for that one to go in through next year, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Third time's a charm.
Third time's the charm. I think next time we'll probably have more success in doing that, and we'll still be there to support them. And anyway, but the good news is, I think we made a name as the National Cryptologic Foundation with the state, General Assembly. They know who we are now. Yeah, and so that's all good for helping in the advocacy of not just our programs, but helping to educate our students and public in the future. So so that's does that answer your question?
Yes, but I have one more.
Okay.
You speak about training up to including K-12.
Mhm.
What's planned for
So
the college level?
for the foundation?
Yes.
So we've talked quite a bit. We've been talking quite about this, and so first of all, we do work with the Centers of Academic Excellence. We still have a place in that. We're a subrecipient on a grant for that Mark and his team are working. So we do have some work in those areas. One is to working with the CAEs to determine if there should be a high school CAE program. And there's another to take the curriculum and things that are already into what is known as Clark and make that more available and searchable is the best way. There's a better word for it, but it didn't come out right. Anyway, so we're working that. But when it comes to the training piece, I think there's something else as a foundation that we really want to focus on, and this really gets to the underserved communities, is, you know, you don't have to have a college degree to go and have a successful career in cybersecurity. There are tons of jobs out there. And all you need is some training, right? You can go from high school into a training program, go into a very productive and well-paying, you know, career. So we want to start working and advocate for that in the future too, and reach into a lot of these schools to try to figure out where, and there's some work with the HBCUs to help make that happen as well. But how do we reach out and then make sure that people understand, first of all, what are the jobs that are available? And then what kind of training do you need to be successful in those careers? So we are going beyond K to 12, but right now, a lot of our initial focus, right, with the funding we have has been in that. I'm going to look over here. I'm nice. I have to admit, I'm not the admiral, but I think you are, am I right? Okay. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. I was just trying to read those and see if there's anything else. Okay. All right. So yes,
So
Penny.
you talked about high school, K through high school and then college. Are you also considering what I would call junior college, 2-year college?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That seems to be a really good.
Oh, absolutely. That's part of the reason we are engaging like right now we do a lot of work with the Anne Arundel Community College students. They're local, but that's how we got one of the United Way Challenge grants, is because we included them as part of our that we were going to have them do the work for us, and we are. So that's, you know, that's a case where we're partnering with them. But yeah, we see that, you know, again, don't have to have a 4-year degree to work in this field, and how can we, you know, leverage that? So yeah, and that's all part of the strategic planning process that we're going to go through as well as a foundation. Have any other questions? I know this isn't, you didn't, I know you all wanted to hear, we're going to put a shovel in the ground and let it go.
Yeah.
but it'll get built. I just have confidence that it will happen. I'm eternally optimistic. Anyway. All right.
So,
Well, if there,
two quick things, Laura.
yeah.
Regarding the construction supplies, a firm fixed price contract, can you find the contractor who will do that?
So I gotta get my words right. I'm sorry. We had a contract that had a maximum guaranteed price. Was the words. But that at this point in time, and the amount of, it's been 2 years since, almost 2 years, like a year and a half since that was in place. And there's no way that we will be able to adopt that, you know, under these conditions. The prices have escalated. So we do, while we have a contract in place, that price is not firm, fixed, and guaranteed at this point in time. Hopefully that answered that question. So.
The next question, Laura, was when the link would be sent out to registered guests.
And what would be the answer to that, Christine?
It was a few days because there's an awful lot of video to
Process.
process.
That's correct.
It's
Yeah.
a couple of days.
So for everybody out there, when you do these Zoom things, it takes hours to process this. So it'll be a couple of days before it's out there. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for who came in person.
Thank you.
Well,